What is up, Pokemon people? This is Michael Sean with Unison Games coming at you with one of the last videos about our rotation series. This is the top 10 cards we'll miss from Lost Thunder. We've done the top 10 cards we'll miss from Ultra Prism, Forbidden Light, Celestial Storm, Dragon Majesty, and now finally we've made it to the last set that would be rotating out of Standard. Now I will say there will be one more video after this where me and Winter, the members of Team Metroflex, will be talking about the top 10 cards we're losing from the whole rotation. But as far as single sets are concerned, this is the last one we'll be working on. Of course, these are the sets that will remain in Standard for the 2020 and 2021 season. Some very good sets, but we will be losing Lost Thunder, which is one of the best sets we've ever had in the Pokemon TCG. There are so many great cards from this, and because of that, I have tons and tons of honorable mentions. So we're going to be talking about some of those honorable mentions right now. Please forgive me for having so many. It was so difficult to get this list put together because, like I said, there were tons of great cards from this set. We're going to start out by mentioning Xerneas Prism Star. Now, this has an ability, Path of Life. If this moves to the active spot during your turn, you may move any number of energy to it. And then for 3 fairy energies, you have Bright Horns for 160, and this can't use that attack next turn. The biggest reason why this card is relevant right now is it gets a one-hit KO on ADP. Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia, of course, have fairy weakness being a dragon-type Pokemon, and therefore they get one-shotted by the Xerneas. The biggest deck that uses this right now is Ultimate Mewtwo, which is a super cool deck. But this card is amazing for all fairy decks. I think it's definitely saw play in every fairy deck. Very good in Guardian when Guardian was big. And we are losing fairies altogether because they're no longer printing those. Go ahead and press F on your keyboards right now because we're all enraged that the Pokemon Company is not printing fairy cards anymore. However, that significantly decreases the playability of this card, obviously, and so it is just an honorable mention. Moving on to Shaymin and Lifeforce Prism Star. These are two things that the grass archetypes got to provide healing for themselves. Shaymin, for each one you had on your bench, you got to heal 20 damage from your active grass. And Lifeforce Prism Star is once during each player's turn. That player may heal 60 damage and remove all special conditions from one of their grass-type Pokemon. Healing was pretty big for grass, especially with Celebi and Venusaur in team-up, where you would just kind of tank for a while. However, grass has since fallen out of favor, especially since most of them are weak to fire, and fire has become the best typing in the game. And honestly, Pokemon has not been doing the greatest job of printing good quality grass-type cards, which is sad because I love grass. But we do need to mention these cards because they're really cool ways that grass has healing. Along the same line, grass also got Netball and Grovyle, two great ways to search out their Pokemon. Netball says you can search your deck for a basic grass Pokemon or a basic grass energy card. Grovyle said once during your turn, you may search your deck for a grass Pokemon of any description, reveal it, put it into your hand. Both incredible ways that grass had to search that no other typings did. I think grass should have had a leg up, but like I said, they kind of got shafted as far as the printing of good grass Pokemon go. Next honorable mention we have is Wobbuffet. This card is ridiculously good. It has this ability, Shady Tail. As long as this Pokemon is on your bench, Prism Star Pokemon in play can't attack and have no abilities. The biggest reason why this is just an honorable mention instead of making its way onto the list is that this set was so good. It has amazing cards. Also, we're actually losing a lot of relevant Prism Star Pokemon in this rotation, and therefore by the time Wobbuffet, or by the time the rotation will hit, and you play a Wobbuffet, there's going to be significantly less amount of Prism Star Pokemon that you can be shutting off. However, the card is super, super good and will remain super, super good and expanded as we continue to see those Prism Stars used there. And another honorable mention we have is Zebstrika. It has the ability Sprint. Once during your turn, you may discard your hand and draw 4. Honestly, the biggest reason why this doesn't see play is because of Dedenne GX, which is just strictly better than it. And it takes up a bench space. It has evolution. It gets you 4 cards instead of 6 like Dedenne does. And yeah, so because of that, we don't really see Zebstrika seeing a whole lot of play, but this ability is ridiculous. It's super good, and it's probably the best thing that you have other than Ditto GX as far as that. And so what I usually have recommended to people is if you don't have the monies for Ditto GX and you never pulled them, go ahead and put a Blitzel Zeb Streaka line in there, and then just upgrade it into Ditto later down the road. Okay, starting the proper list. I did make this a top 11 instead of top 10. Sorry about that, but like I said, these cards are so good. So number 11, we have Faba. Choose a Pokemon tool or special energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon or any stadium card in play and put it in the Lost Zone. This is so good when tools, special energies, and stadiums are dominant, which they are, and which they don't look like they will stop being for a long time. And so Faba just threw him in the Lost Zone. Very, very good if you didn't have a supporter card that had to do with your attacking. Faba is so good. Attacking and drawing supporters are generally better than it, which is why it comes in at number 11. But there are several types of decks that want to play this card, especially control. But I think this card is fine in any deck, really, because oftentimes a lot of players' strategy relies on a stadium or a special energy and tool. So I think Faba is definitely something we're going to be missing, which is why it comes in at number 11. Number 10 is Heat Factory Prism Star. It's insane that this card is number 10. It just goes to show how good this set is and how many cards we're losing. This card says once during each player's turn, they may discard a fire energy to draw 3 cards. Incredible card. So good. Great in every fire deck. Most fire decks played it. And just a great way to draw more cards. And that's why it's coming in on this list at number 10, because we're really going to miss it. Coming at number 9, we have Spell Tag. When this psychic Pokemon is knocked out by damage from opponent's attacks, you may place 4 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like. That's kind of insane. Every psychic deck ever considers playing this card because that's such a powerful ability. And probably the most notable use of this card was in Malamar, because in Malamar you were generally using a lot of non-GX attackers who got knocked out right after they attacked, but basically all your Pokemon hit for an additional 40 damage with that. Or you just gradually spell tag stuff like Jirachis or stuff like even Dedennes. I mean, you can get up there. If you can get a hit in on a Dedenne, you can take a KO later with a spell tag. Just an amazing card. I mean, it's probably... Well, I mean, obviously the reason Malamar was so good is because Malamar is so good. We already discussed that in our Forbidden Light video. But Spell Tag is definitely a huge reason why Malamar was so good. This card is ridiculous, and we're all going to be really sad to see it go, and that's why it makes its way onto this list. Number 8, we have Cephalon GX. This thing really ruled the format when it first came out. It was very, very good, and it still is very, very good. For 2 fires, you have this attack called Mind Blown. And you do 50 times the amount of fire energy that you put from your Pokemon into the Lost Zone. So you basically, from any of your Pokemon, you can just throw that energy in the Lost Zone, and it does 50 more damage for each of those. Probably the most, the thing that this thing was played with the most was Naginata, where you could just kind of absorb the energy onto Naginata and then Lost Zone it away. So you could both be attaching from hand and getting it out of the discard pile. Obviously, you play this thing with stuff like Acrobike, you play it with stuff like Welder, you play it with stuff like Heat Factory Prism Star, you play it with stuff like Great. I mean, do I need to keep going? There's so much fire support. This thing is still amazing, still super good. It has fallen out of favor a little bit because ADP totally and completely crushes this deck, turning a 2-prize trade into 2 knockouts, which is kind of insane, but hey, that's how ADP works, right? And so, but Cephalon GX is still a fantastic card. It can still be copied with stuff like Mew Mew if you so desire, and it definitely deserves its spot at number 8. Number 7 is Professor Elms' Lecture. This card is kind of falling out of favor a little bit just because we were in so much of a basic-heavy format. However, even in a basic-heavy format, this card still finds ways to be played with things like Pidgeotto, because you can search for 3 Pokemon with 60 HP or less and add them to your hand. It does not say basic, it says 60 HP or less. So stage 1s that have 60 HP, or even stage 2s, not that there are any that exist, that have 60 HP or less, can also be searched off of this card. That makes this card super good. Unlike Bridget, its kind of spiritual predecessor who searched for 3 Pokemon that were not EXs and puts them straight onto your bench, this card actually puts them into your hand, which is significantly better so that you can get coming into play abilities, or so that you don't play them right away and you can just do things like thin your deck. But this card is amazing. It's a super good full art. I love that Cyndaquil is just kind of like being shy and like holding on to him like, I don't want to go anywhere. And Totodile is just kind of being super hyper. But like I really like this card. I think it's an amazing card. Super good for any deck that evolves or any deck that plays little baby Pokemon. Moving on to number 6, we have Giratina. Giratina was kind of the star of the Malamar archetype since it came out, and it still is the star of the Malamar archetype to this day. It has this ability, Distortion Door. If this is in your discard pile, you may put it on your bench and place 1 damage counter on 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. You can see how that might synergize with stuff like Spell Tag, which we just talked about. And then for 2 Psychic and a colorless, you have Shadow Impact. 130 damage, you put 4 damage on one of your Pokemon, which does not matter because most of the time you're just going to put it on Giratina itself because it's just going to be knocked out anyway. So yeah, I mean, this card is ridiculous. 130 damage is pretty good considering you can just cycle it over and over again with just 2 Malamars and an attachment for hand, or 3 Malamars on your bench. Plus, you just put the 4 damage on itself and you put a spell tag on it. Now you're hitting for 170 damage or 130 damage and 40 anywhere else you want to go. This card's ridiculous. It's super, super good. The promo version of it, which I have pictured on the screen, was worth a lot of money for a long time. I paid a decent chunk for mine, and just a really, really good card. Yeah, it's such an obviously good card that I don't really feel like there's much more to say about it. But anyway, it's definitely earned its place on this list. Moving on to number 5 is Magcargo GX, which kind of seems crazy putting this card above Giratina, but lately this card has been kind of a powerhouse. And so let's look at its 2 attacks, 2 fire, and a colorless for Lava Flow. You do 50 plus. You can discard any amount of basic energy from this, and this does 50 more damage for each energy you discard. Super, super good attack for Mew Mew. I did not play this card originally in Mew Mew, and then I started playing it, and I was like, why did I not play this card? It's so powerful, and it's such a Pokemon that you wouldn't expect to do something this powerful, but it does. I mean, the crazy thing is you got stuff like Cephalon that does 50 times, but this does 50 plus. So you can do 50 damage without discarding anything, and then instead of discarding, let's take something like you want to knock out another Mew Mew, for instance, as 270 HP. Copying Blacephalon, you'd have to Lost Zone 6 energies, or if you're attacking with Turtonator, you'd have to discard 6 energies because you have to get to 300. Well, with Magcargo GX, you only have to discard 5 energies, and that's a significant difference. I mean, that can mean a turn, like a whole turn earlier, you could be knocking stuff out with Magcargo GX. And then there's a whole nother use to this card too, because for 1 fire, you have Burning Magma GX, which just discards the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck. I can't even tell you how many games I've lost because a Chinchino Mill player put a Mew Mew down, added literally just 1 fire energy to it, and then Burning Magma GX to me to discard the last 5 cards of my deck. Very, very, very strong, and it's super cool. Like in Mew Mew, if you somehow didn't use your GX attack yet and your opponent only has 5 cards, you just win the game with it. Very good card. There's also a Magcargo GX deck itself running around that utilized Magcargo GX, regular Magcargo, and Oranguru post Sword and Shield. And for that reason, I mean, that's several decks that play this card. I think this card has earned its number 5 spot, which is something that I definitely would not have said maybe 2 months ago. So very good card that kind of proved itself later in its life. We will be sad to see it go. At number 4, we've got Naginata. This is a card that I've been talking about several times throughout the series because it is that good. It has this ability charging up once during your turn. You may attach a basic energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon, not to mention that it has a great attack as well. But really the big thing here is just its energy acceleration for so many different types of decks. This saw play with Cephalon GX. This saw play with Nagquag, it being the Nag to Quagsire's Quag. And oh man, so many other decks too. Turtonator comes to mind. There's so many awesome things that this card can do. basically anything that does Rayquaza GX, anything that does damage based on how much energy is on the field can take advantage of Naginata. Just a great, great card. And the fact that it's psychic makes it super searchable for Mysterious Treasure. The fact that it's an Ultra Beast makes it super searchable for Ultra Space. This card just has everything going for it. Plus Spit Poison. Poipole is probably one of the best pre-evolutions we've had in this format. So, man, we got so much really great stuff here going for Naginata. Very, very good card. We're going to be sad to see it go for sure because it was just, man, so good. Moving on to number 3, we have Custom Catcher. This is a really interesting card. It's one of those ones that does different things depending upon how many you play. When you play 2 Custom Catchers, this is a gust. It's just switch your opponent's active. And when you only play 1, this is the crazy thing. Usually the playing 1 is like not good and the playing 2 is really good, but the playing 1 is really good too. You just draw cards until you have 3 cards. I can't even tell you how many times I've used that. A bunch of times because it's a really good, kind of, a lot of times Custom Catcher will be like the last card in your hand or the second to last, so you discard it, you draw 2, you draw 3. That's super good. Drawing 2 cards off of an item is amazing. That's really, really good. And so, I mean, you think of like Roller Skates, which does that on a coin flip, and a lot of people played that, and this one just does it. Very, very cool card. Best Gust in the game just on its own, just because it is guaranteed Gust. However, you do have to play 2, which is kind of annoying, but stuff like Green's Exploration, a lot of Greens decks could just get this. You basically have like a Lysander when you play your Greens because you just Greens for 2 Custom Catcher and then boom, it's done. But this at one point was the only Gust we had in the game, and that was huge. But even since getting Pokemon Catcher, which I do think is a little bit better than Custom Catchers, this card still continues to see play in certain decks that tend to hold on to their hands or tend to have item search in their decks, like in the form of Volkner. But yeah, this is a fantastic card coming in at number 3. Moving on to number 2, we have Ditto Prism Star. This card is amazing. It's just a pre-evolution to literally everything. Its ability, Almighty Evolution, says you may place any stage 1 onto this to evolve. That's super good. What do you even say about this card? It's just so obviously good that it's hard to explain why it's so good. It's your 5th basic in a heavy like quad stage 1 deck. It allows you to tech stage 1s if you want to. It allows you to play low counts of other Pokemon if you're playing multiple stage 1s. There's so many things that this card does for you. It has 40 HP, so it's searchable. So if you want to play a Professor Elms lecture deck, you can play Ditto instead of playing your 70 HP basics that you would have in some of your evolution chains. There's so many great applications of this card that it's honestly like I think we all can just read it and be like, wow, that's an amazing card. We're going to miss that. The fact that this isn't our number 1 means that our number 1 has got to be super amazing, and I think that it is. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. Number 1 thing that we're losing from this set is lightning stuff. I know I'm cheating a little bit, but the fact is all these cards are amazing. All these cards are cards that we're going to miss. This between this and the stuff we lost in Ultra Prism, Lightning players are just kind of crying because it's going to be really hard to play Lightning moving forward here. The first one here that I have is Zeraora GX. Zeraora GX just says if this is on your bench or in play at all your Lightning, any Pokemon that has any Lightning energy attached has no retreat cost. Very, very good card. Has only stopped seeing play in Pikarom recently, and not all Pikarom players have stopped playing it because it's still a fantastic card, even though it's kind of a liability on the bench. The second card that we will talk about here is Thunder Mountain Prism Star. This just makes all your Lightning Pokemon have attacks now that cost a Lightning less. This is what makes stuff like first turn full blitz on Pikarom possible, because you're taking a 3 energy attack and making it a 2 energy attack. So all you have to do is accelerate 1 energy during your turn, and then you can go ahead and go with it. And that energy acceleration often comes in the form of Tapu Koko Prism Star, which incidentally is actually staying in the format by nature of it being in Team Up instead of Lost Thunder. But we have so many cool Pokemon that can take advantage of that as well. And then, of course, the biggest thing that we're going to be missing, the thing that makes Lightning decks the most viable right now, is Electro Power, which you just play as, you can play 4 of them, or 2 of them, or 3 of them, or 1, whatever you want, but as many as you play, your Lightning Pokemon do 30 more damage to your opponent's active during that turn. So if you guys remember Choice Band, this is a Choice Band, but it works on everything, and it only lasts 1 turn, which is fine, because usually you just use it to take knockouts and use it to win the game. This hits every single Lightning deck. Both of these cards, or all 3 of these cards rather, hit almost every single Lightning deck, and they're going to make the Lightning archetype significantly harder to play post-rotation. And so if you're like me and you enjoy playing stuff like Pikarom or even Nuzzle when we're talking about Electro Power, let's all just put like little crying face emojis in the comment section, because this is really, really, really going to hurt us. Yeah, losing Lightning stuff is really tough. That's really tough. And so that's why I've put this Lightning stuff at the number 1 slot here. But here's the point in the video where I want you guys to hit the comment section and tell me which cards are you the least happy to be losing. What cards are you just, man, you're just missing quite a bit. I want to say thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below with what cards you're going to be missing the most. If you are a Pikarom player, go ahead and put a crying face in the comment section and tell us, what deck are you going to play now? I know a lot of people that have been playing Pikarom since it was first out in Team Up. That was years ago at this point, and they're still playing Pikarom because it's still a good deck. And so what deck are you going to play now? What is like Pikarom? I don't know what is like Pikarom. I don't think there is anything like Pikarom. It's kind of like in our Forbidden Light video where we were talking about Malamar. Very similar type of fan. And tell us, if you're a Pikarom player, tell us what deck you're going to next. And of course, for everybody else, including you guys, make sure that you tell us what cards you're the least excited about to rotate here. What are you the most sad about? What are you going to miss from Lost Thunder? Be sure to subscribe and ring the bell, because there are more videos coming. We're going to be talking with Winter about our Team Metroflex top 10 list of cards we're missing from all of the sets that are rotating. That is what's coming up next, so be sure to tune in. You guys are not going to want to miss any of that. But until then, I will see you next time, and keep doing your Pokemon thing.